Heartwarming revelation, Black woman sells family heirloom for milk, discovers father is jeweler. Jamila stood outside the pawn shop, the chilled air biting at her cheeks as she clutched the delicate gold locket. It felt like the weight of her grandmother's love rested on her palm, every tiny detail a reminder of the warmth she had lost. This piece wasn't just metal, it was a lifeline to her past, a small slice of history that had comforted her through sleepless nights as a single mother to her bright-eyed son, Malik. But the voice inside her head was louder, crying out for food and stability. Malik needed milk, and they needed so much more. Taking a deep breath, she pushed through the grimy glass door. The clatter of busy machinery mixed with the sharp scent of polished wood and metal. She felt every heartbeat echo as she approached the counter. The pawn dealer, a burly man with tired eyes and a wary smile, raised an eyebrow as she placed the locket before him. "This?" he asked, his tone questioning, his eyes piercing through the sentimental veil. It was a simple piece to him, but for Jamila, it held a universe of memories. Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes, but she swallowed hard. Memories flooded back, her grandmother's voice, soft as a feather, recounting tales of resilience and strength. How could she explain this to him? How could he understand what this meant to her? She clenched her fists, desperately fighting the urge to take it back and run. Each passing second felt like a lifetime, but she needed to think of Malik. Keeping him fed was the priority. As the negotiation dragged on, her ears perked at a mention of a local gallery show, a jewelry exhibit celebrating hidden talents in their community. It was then she heard them mention her father, an estranged figure she'd long since buried in the shadows of her heart. "He's some kind of jeweler, they say," the dealer said, a hint of admiration in his voice. Jamila froze, her heart racing with confusion and anger. How could the man who walked out of her life be showcased like this? 1,000 questions roared in her mind, blurring the lines between pain and intrigue. Memories of their last argument bubbled to the surface, mixing with the hope that he might want to mend what was broken. But how could she even begin to face him? With her locket traded away, would she even recognize her own family? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Leaving the shop felt like an uprooting, the air suddenly heavy and electric. Jamila clutched her chest, feeling the sharp edges of emotions that threatened to overwhelm her. That night, with Malik asleep in his bed, she filled her brave heart with determination. She'd find him. And when she did, would he welcome her? Or was it too late to repair the wounded hearts? The weight of the locket turned to ash in her hands, but the warmth of what it represented remained: love, family, and perhaps, the possibility of healing. Standing at the crossroads of her past and future, Jamila steeled herself against the doors of uncertainty that lay ahead, her heart torn but hopeful. The next morning, Jamila awoke with a restless heart. The golden sunlight streamed through her window but felt too harsh, too bright against the weight of her tangled emotions. She sat on the edge of the bed, debating what to do next. Should she dig deeper into her father's past? The thought made her stomach twist like a corkscrew. As she tiptoed into the kitchen, she felt the familiar ache of hunger pull at her belly. Malik was already awake, his small frame hunched over a pile of colorful blocks. His laughter, a sweet symphony, brought a smile to Jamila's face, if only for a moment. His innocent joy reminded her why she had to push through the pain and take action. "Good morning, Mama," Malik chirped, brightening the room. His cheeks were smudged with remnants of what looked like yesterday's lunch. "Can we make pancakes today?" "Absolutely, buddy. But first, how about we start with some milk?" She opened the fridge. Only a few drops remained in the bottom of the jug. She sighed, a thick cloud of worry creeping in. As she filled Malik's cup with the last bit of milk, the thought of facing the pawn shop again lingered at the back of her mind. What if she could trade something else? Something valuable, not just in terms of money but in terms of hope. After breakfast, she grabbed her phone, a small lifeline to the world outside the confines of their small apartment. With trembling hands, she typed in "jewelers near me" and was met with an array of names. One caught her eye, the very one mentioned by the pawn dealer. Jacob's Designs. It felt like fate had stepped in. Taking a deep breath, she decided she couldn't just sit back anymore. She needed answers, and maybe, just maybe, this Jacob would help. If Jacob was indeed her father, maybe he could teach her more about jewels and crafts, something she could use one day to provide for Malik without the burden of selling off family history. The thrill and terror of the unknown settled into her bones. She slipped on her worn sneakers, kissed Malik on the forehead, and promised him she'd be back soon. "I'll get us more milk," she declared, trying to sound enthusiastic. With every step towards Jacob's shop, uncertainty knotted her stomach. The street bustled with people, the sound of afternoon laughter and chatter swirling around her. Each face was a stranger, but she felt like she knew them, bonded by the shared experience of life. Finally, she reached the small storefront. The sign above read, "Jacob's Designs," in elegant lettering. She paused, her heart racing. What if he rejected her? What if he didn't care? But the thought of Malik waiting for her drove her forward. Pushing open the door, a bell chimed softly. The interior startled her with its warmth, and the scent of metal and polish filled the air, rich and intoxicating. As her eyes adjusted, she scoured the place for signs of her father. Behind the counter, a man bent over a workbench, carefully crafting a small piece of jewelry. His hands moved skillfully, defining the contours of a ring. When he looked up, their eyes met. In that moment, everything around Jamila faded. She felt a swell of recognition, something almost visceral, as if the heart of her childhood had found its long-lost counterpart. "Can I help you?" he asked, a hint of curiosity lacing his voice. Jamila's breath caught, the question she'd rehearsed falling from her lips unfinished. "I am here to talk about family." Would he recognize the connection? Or would this be just another moment of rejection in a life already filled with too many? The air shimmered with possibilities, and she steeled herself for whatever might come next. The search for milk had just become the search for her long-lost heart. Would she find what she was looking for, or would the boundaries still be too vast to cross? Jamila's heart pounded in her chest, her words hanging between them like a bridge waiting to be crossed. Jacob looked at her, curiosity dancing in his eyes. The workbench between them seemed to pulse with the weight of unspoken histories and unresolved emotions. "What do you mean by family?" he asked carefully, his hands moving away from the ring he was shaping, resting instead on the polished surface before him. There was something in his tone, a flicker of recognition. Jamila felt the air shift, the moment teetering on the edge of something monumental. I think you might be my father," she finally said, her voice trembling. His expression shifted into one of surprise, eyebrows raising slightly. She saw the gears in his mind turning. "That's a bold claim. How do you know?" Jamila drew a deep breath. "I have this necklace," she fished in her pocket, her hand curling around the cold metal. "It belonged to my mother." As she pulled it out, the sunlight glimmered off the faceted stones, revealing their deep colors. "And I believe it holds a story, our story." Jacob's gaze softened, his eyes lingering on the necklace. He stepped closer, reaching for it with caution as if it were a fragile treasure. The moment their hands touched, a warm thrill surged through her. But she felt the trepidation linger. What if he recoiled? Instead, he inspected the piece closely. "This is exquisite," he muttered, almost to himself. "I haven't seen one like it in years. Do you remember it?" Jamila hoped her voice didn't reveal how desperate she felt. "It was in my mother's possession before she passed. I need to understand to find out more." For a moment, the weight of his silence felt like an eternity. Then he looked up, the hardness in his eyes melted away, replaced by an earnestness that made Jamila's heart flutter. "I'll tell you everything I know," he said softly. "But you have to promise me something in return." Jamila nodded eagerly, the path seeming clearer. "Anything." He smiled, a flicker of warmth spreading across his face. "Let us sit down. If there's any emotion left in that necklace, I need to hear it. And I want to see you, to know who you are." As they moved to a small wooden table in the corner, Jamila felt a mixture of hope and fear collide in her chest. She wanted this connection, craved the family she had missed. But what would she find? Would Jacob welcome her, or was this merely a fleeting moment? They settled into the chairs, and Jamila leaned forward, unable to contain her curiosity. "What was my mother like?" she asked, her heart racing. Jacob's face grew solemn as he began to speak. "She was full of light. A dreamer, always losing herself in stories. We built this place together." Each word he spoke painted a picture of a love she'd never known, and a gap within her filled just a little. But as he continued, Jamila felt a twinge of pain. What if their past could never tie them together completely? Suddenly, a thought gripped her. How could you leave? How could you let her go through life alone? His expression clouded over, shadows falling across his face. "It's complicated, Jamila. Life is rarely black and white." Yet she felt the wave of unresolved tension, echoing every hurt she had ever known. There was the beating of opportunity alongside her fears of rejection. Would this moment bring joy, or would it end in heartache? Her pulse raced as she leaned in for the next revelation, ready for the truth, whatever it might bring. Jacob's eyes darkened at her question, the warmth in his face giving way to shadows of regret. The words hung in the air like a heavy mist. Jamila's heart thudded loudly, an anxious drumbeat echoing her growing uncertainty. "Jamila, it's not that simple," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I was young. I was scared. Your mother, she wanted a life our life, but I couldn't see past my own fears." Jamila felt the air shift again, this time thick and knotty, tightening around her chest. She could hear the crackle of the wood in the room and the distant clinking of metal tools. Voices from the outside world faded into a muffled blur. All she could focus on was Jacob's face, the sudden vulnerability etched into his features. "What do you mean? Did you love her?" He looked away, his hands gripping the edge of the table. "Of course I loved her. But love doesn't always make things right. It can complicate them. We were lost, and I made the wrong choice." Her mind raced, piecing together fragments of a story she was just beginning to uncover. "Was I a mistake then? Was I part of the reason you left?" "No." Jacob's voice cut through the air, sharp and fleet. "You were never a mistake, Jamila. I didn't know how to face what I'd done. I thought leaving would protect you both." Protect. That word bounced around in her mind, challenging everything she thought she knew about family. Had his absence been a misguided attempt to shield her from pain? Or had it only created a greater wound? "But I grew up without you," she said, her voice trembling barely above a whisper. "Every birthday, every milestone I missed. How could you choose that?" She could see hurt ripple across Jacob's face. "I never chose to miss those moments. I thought you'd be better off without me." There was so much I didn't understand back then. They moved into silence. The world outside the window was indifferent to their exchange, busy and alive. Inside, it felt like they were suspended in a time bubble, two strangers grappling with the weight of acknowledgement, of loss, and of uncharted possibilities. Her thoughts were a whirlpool. What if this moment was the start of something new, or maybe just an echo of all the pain? Perhaps she would never get the answers she truly sought. Jacob shifted, breaking the tension. "The necklace, it belonged to your mother, yes?" "Yes," she nodded, gripping the chain tightly. "It was her way of passing down a piece of our past, connecting me to the future. His expression softened, and for a fleeting second, hope flickered in his eyes. There's still a chance to build something together, Jamila, if you want to. His words hung in the air, a fragile promise. But could they really overcome the years of distance and the scars of abandonment? In the depths of her being, a glimmer of hope ignited. Could she allow herself to trust again? I think I want to know more, she said slowly, the weight of her words heavy yet liberating. But it's going to take time. Trust takes time. A small smile appeared on his face, the shadows lifting just a bit. I understand. Start with stories. I have many to tell, echoes of your mother that you might find comforting. But what if they hurt? She asked, a new edge of trepidation in her voice. Then we'll face those too, together, he replied, his eyes sincere. For a moment, Jamila felt the tingling promise of family warmth against the chill of doubt. Was this the beginning? Would unraveling their past together lead to something stronger? As the afternoon light shifted, filling the room with golden hues, a question slipped into her mind: was she brave enough to plunge deeper into the mystery of her roots, facing both the beauty and the pain attached to them? She took a deep breath, her heart racing as she prepared to dive into the stories that could shape her future. But somewhere within, uncertainty still lurked, whispering shadowy doubts. What stories awaited her within those walls? What truths would emerge? The warmth from the fading sunlight danced through the window, illuminating the dust motes that floated lightly in the air. Jamila's heart raced with the thrill of the unknown, yet a knot tightened in her stomach. She was standing at the edge of an emotional precipice. Would she take the leap? Let us start with the stories, then, Jacob said, his voice breaking through her spiral of thoughts. He leaned back in the chair, his eyes searching hers, as if hoping she would signal him to begin this journey into their shared past. Okay, she managed, feeling vulnerable and excited all at once. Tell me something, anything. Jacob swallowed hard. Your mother, he began hesitantly, his gaze drifting somewhere beyond the four walls of the room. She was fierce, so much stronger than I realized back then. I remember the day we met. His words cascaded over her, and for the first time, she felt a connection to the woman she had only known in fragmented memories. Jacob's voice painted a picture, a vivid tapestry of their lives intertwined. She had this wild spirit, he continued, his expression softening. Always laughing, even during the hardest times. We were both just trying to figure it out, you know. We had dreams, plans. Jamila leaned in, captivated. What were your dreams? I wanted to be an artist, to create jewelry that told stories. She wanted to change the world. For us, for you. It was beautiful, but we were young. We didn't understand how to navigate love and life yet. As he spoke, Jamila's fingers traced the contours of the necklace. She thought of her mother, the stories she shared, the strong woman who had held their family together through thick and thin. The bonds were tighter now, threads of history intertwining between them. We started crafting pieces together. Jacob paused, a smile breaking through the solemnity. There was this one bracelet she made, a simple braid of silver. She called it strength. Jamila's heart swelled. Did she wear it? Every day, he nodded. She believed it brought her good luck. I wish I had appreciated those moments more at the time. We were too busy battling our fears. His eyes darkened again, and Jamila felt the weight of regret settle over them once more. And then I panicked. I thought leaving would solve everything, that time would heal the wounds I had caused. But you didn't know, Jamila said softly, wishing to ease the hurt coloring his features. He looked directly into her eyes, longing for understanding. That's true. I was a coward who kept running. But now, I want to face everything that happened, especially for you. Jamila's heart fluttered with a mix of hope and fear. Did she truly want to delve deeper into this complicated history? The idea of understanding her roots felt intimidating, yet thrilling. We can start with stories, she reminded him, her voice firm. But I need to know your side, too. What happened after? He took a deep breath, collecting himself as old memories swirled like clouds in the room. After I left, I struggled. I tried to find myself, but each step felt heavier without you both. I fell into a different life, a life filled with loss that taught me about regrets, but ultimately, it pushed me to return. Return? Jamila felt her pulse quicken. To where? To us. Yes, and it took me longer than it should have. Time slipped away like sand, he replied, voice trembling slightly. Jamila felt her resolve strengthening. She wanted this connection, with all its complexities. Then tell me how you found your way back. Just then, the door creaked open, and a familiar voice interrupted their exchange. It was her younger brother. Jamila. Are you not now? She snapped, the sudden irritation surprising even herself. But the chills spilled back into the room when she realized Jacob was looking at her with a mix of confusion and curiosity. I'm sorry, I want this to be a moment between us, she said, embarrassment creeping in. Jacob nodded slowly, a hint of understanding in his expression. You deserve that moment. As silence enveloped them again, Jamila realized she was teetering on the edge of a pivotal choice. Would she embrace the unknown or retreat back to the safety of what she already knew? Glancing at Jacob, she felt the urge to know even more. Tell me about the days after, she urged, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and excitement. What awaited them in the storytelling? Would it be healing, or would it reveal more pain? Could they chisel away at the shadows of their past? Jacob shifted in his seat, taking a moment to gather his thoughts. The shadows deepened in the room as the sun dipped lower, casting long fingers of golden light across the floor. When I left, he began, his voice low and steady, I thought it was for the best. I believed that running away from my problems would give me the clarity I needed. But it didn't. I wandered from one city to another, working odd jobs, trying to drown out the memories of you and your mother. Each step away from you both only deepened my regret. Jamila could feel the weight of his words. They hung between them like a heavy curtain, a barrier of unaddressed pain. She reminded herself to breathe, to stay present in this moment, even as the truth began to unfurl like an old, worn-out scroll. I remember so vividly the day that shifted everything, he continued. I was working at a diner one afternoon, serving coffee to people who barely noticed me. And then I overheard a conversation between two customers about an exhibition showcasing local artists. One of them was a jeweler. Her heart skipped a beat at the mention of jewelry. A flicker of interest piqued her curiosity. A jeweler? She echoed, urging him to elaborate. Yes. They were discussing how important it was to maintain tradition, to tell stories through craftsmanship. It lit a fire in me, something I thought I had extinguished. I realized that I had been away for so long from the very passion I once shared with your mother, Jacob said, his eyes catching hers with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. What did you do? Jamila asked, leaning closer, eager to absorb every detail of his journey. I started sketching again. I explored different styles, materials, all while searching for a way to channel my emotions into something meaningful. But I struggled to find my voice. I missed your mother's laughter, her encouragement. I could almost hear her telling me to keep going. A wave of sympathy washed over Jamila. Did you ever reach out to her? To me? To let us know you were okay? He shook his head, guilt sweeping across his features. No. I was too ashamed. I thought I could fix things on my own. It felt easier to disappear than to confront the carnage I left behind. As Jamila watched him, something began to shift in her heart. She felt the pull of empathy, a yearning to understand the man before her and the man he once was. She wanted to help him heal, just as he was helping her piece together the fragments of her past. And then what happened? She asked, gnawing at the uncertainty lingering like a tension in the air. I met an old lady at a flea market, he explained. She was a jeweler, too, with hands that moved like magic. She knew stories hers, others, and for some reason, she took a liking to me. One day while I was admiring her work, she handed me a piece she had crafted, a simple silver band. It felt familiar, almost like a connection to what I had lost. What was it like? Jamila asked, intrigued by this new thread in their unfolding narrative. It held memories of laughter, hope, and possibilities. She told me that jewelry is a language, an expression of the heart. Suddenly, I was inspired to create again. I poured every ounce of love, regret, and hope into pieces that told the stories of loss and redemption. Jamila's eyes sparkled with a mixture of surprise and admiration. So you became what you always wanted to be? Yes, but there's more, Jacob replied, lowering his voice as though revealing a secret. I realized that to truly embrace my past, I needed to return to the roots that shaped me. I began searching for you, both the last tying thread to my history. I wasn't just coming back to make amends, I needed to find my purpose. Jamila's breath caught in her throat. This man, flawed yet earnest, had been carrying the weight of shared dreams all along. Whatever threads had once separated them were slowly beginning to weave back together. Would it be enough to bring them both peace? Jacob, she started, but the words faltered. Suddenly, the door swung open again, and her younger brother's face appeared, framed by the doorway. Jamila. You really need to not now. She shot back, fierceness snapping back into her voice. The interruption felt like a crack in an ancient dam, threatening to break the delicate flow of their conversation. As her brother stepped back, she turned to Jacob once more. We were talking about your journey back. What did you find when you came searching for us? Jacob's gaze narrowed, determination flickering in his eyes. I found more than I ever expected. I found the courage to face my mistakes, and a story that was waiting to be told. Jamila felt the current between them surge again, taking them closer to something monumental. What could this story reveal, and would they be prepared for what lay ahead? This moment felt pivotal, as if it whispered promises of truths yet undiscovered. Tell me, she urged, her voice barely above a whisper, what unfolded in your search? Jacob took a deep breath, the air heavy with expectation. He could feel Jamila's eyes on him, intense and probing, urging him to share the depth of his journey. It started with a map, he said, his eyes drifting to the window. The fading light painted the sky in vibrant shades of orange and pink. I marked places I'd lived, the little towns where I worked, the faces I'd met. But the most important mark was on the small town where you two used to live. It felt like the starting point for everything, the only thread worth pulling. Jamila leaned forward, captivated. I didn't know what I would find there. I feared it would be more reminders of what I had left behind. But deep down, I hoped it would lead me back to you. His voice cracked slightly, revealing vulnerability. When I got there, it felt like a ghost town. I parked on the street where we used to walk together, how vibrant it was, and how it echoed memory and silence now. What did you feel? Jamila asked softly, her heart aching with empathy. Guilt was the loudest voice, he admitted, a pained smile crossing his lips. But there was also hope. I walked into the quaint little jewelry shop, the one where your mother had once worked. It was still there, though the lights were dim and the door creaked like it was clinging to the past. Jamila could almost picture it, the familiar smell of polished wood and metal, the quiet buzz of creativity captured in the air. I spoke to the shop owner, an old man who remembered your mother well. His eyes lit up when I mentioned her name. I swear, it was like I was digging up a treasure no one knew existed anymore, Jacob said, his voice now warm with reminiscence. He told me stories of her laughter and craft, how she could bring life to any piece of jewelry. When I mentioned my desire to reconnect with you and your mother, there was a flicker of recognition in his eyes. What did he say? Jamila whispered, hanging on to every word. He offered me a small collection of her creations he had kept, pieces she'd made before she left the shop. Each one seemed like a shattered piece of my own heart, waiting for healing, Jacob revealed, his fingers tightening around the memory of the rings and earrings. As I held them, I felt her spirit. It was as if she was watching me, waiting for me to understand the importance of every dusty, forgotten part. A moment of silence stretched between them, filled with emotion. Jamila felt tears welling, the gravity of their shared history closing in on her. "Did you bring them back?" she managed to ask, her eyes searching his. "I did," he replied, pulling a small velvet pouch from his pocket. He opened it carefully, revealing a glimmering ring that caught the light. This ring was her favorite. And when I held it, I felt like I was finally holding a part of our lost family, our past. "Jacob," Jamila whispered, unable to hide her surprise. He reached out, offering the ring to her. "I want you to have it. It represents a promise, a bridge back to what we lost. I know it doesn't erase the pain, but maybe it can remind us of the connection that still exists between us." Jamila stared at the ring, her heart racing. It was breathtaking, yet the weight of its meaning paralyzed her. This is too much." "No," Jacob insisted gently. "It's a start. Let us heal together, Jamila. We can weave this family back together, piece by piece." As she took the ring, feeling its cool metal against her palm, a clarity washed over her. Maybe the strength to rebuild lay not just in forgiveness but in shared stories and memories that could grow anew. But as hope began to crack through the layers of their pain, another sharp voice interrupted them. "Jamila. You need to come see this now." Her brother's tone was urgent, tension tightening like a noose around the room. Jacob's brow furrowed as he exchanged glances with her. "What now?" he asked, clearly confused. Feeling a swell of anxiety, Jamila rose, clutching the ring tightly. "I don't know. But it feels like more than what it seems." The unfinished conversation hung in the air, an unresolved tension that demanded their attention. What awaited them at the door, and would it bring them closer to understanding or push them further apart? "Come on," she urged him, the flame of urgency igniting a new journey. Would they be ready to face whatever lay beyond that door? Jamila's heart raced as she moved quickly toward the door, her mind swirling with specters of anxiety and anticipation. Jacob followed closely behind, his feet echoing the urgency in her stride. She gripped the ring tightly, feeling its cool metal ground her in the turbulent sea of emotions. As she swung open the door, the light from inside spilled out, revealing her brother, Amir, standing on the porch. His expression was taut, eyes darting towards the driveway. "You have to see this," he said, his voice low but edged with urgency. "What is it?" Jamila asked, anxiety tinging her words. Amir stepped aside, revealing a figure outside the gate. Jamila squinted into the fading light, which cast long shadows around a woman standing there, her silhouette outlined against the dusk. It was a face she hadn't seen in years, a face that sent a chill down her spine. "Mom," she whispered, disbelief washing over her. The woman looked older, her hair streaked with gray, but those eyes, they were the same. The familiar warmth flickered like an old flame within them, reaching out to Jamila across the years. "Jamila," she said softly, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm back." Without thinking, Jamila took a step forward. Every child's dream of answers and reconciliation flooded her mind. "But why now?" "I heard about your father's illness," she replied, her voice shaking. "I wanted to come home, see if I could help." Jamila's heart shifted, wrestling with a wave of conflicting emotions. Her mother had walked away from everything, and now here she was, standing on the threshold like an uninvited ghost. "What about all the years you were gone? The holidays we spent without you? The pain you left behind?" Jamila's voice cracked, anger flaring beneath her shock. "I know. I'm so sorry," her mother replied, stepping closer, her hands reaching out as if to bridge the gap between them. "I wasn't strong enough to stay. I thought it was better for all of you." Behind them, Jacob stood frozen, trying to absorb the weight of the moment. He exchanged a glance with Amir, who seemed equally torn between welcoming their long-lost mother and protecting Jamila from potential heartbreak. "Now you want to come back?" Jamila asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "After everything? I came back because I realized I can't keep running from my past. I see how much I've hurt you and your father. I want to change that." Jamila's grip on the ring tightened. It felt like the weight of her family's history had folded into this moment, a bitter reunion draped in the promise of healing that felt unreachable. Amir stepped forward, his voice steady. "Do we even know you anymore? How can we trust you?" Jamila ached for those long-ago days, the laughter that filled their home before the fracture. Memories flashed before her like Polaroids. She could almost hear her mother's laughter mingling with the warmth of love and family. Torn, Jamila looked at Jacob. The intensity in his eyes urged her to make a choice, but what was that choice? Open her heart again to a woman who had turned her back, or keep it closed, shielding herself from the potential of further pain? "I just need you to know," her mother continued, "I love you both. No matter what, you have always been in my heart." Silence hung thick in the air, a fragile thread connecting them, beckoning them to reach for one another yet afraid of the repercussions. As Jamila faced this long-awaited reunion, her heart hammered in her chest. Could she embrace this second chance? Would forgiveness be a gift or a curse? "Mom, what happens now?" Jamila asked, her voice firm but edged with vulnerability. The evening air held a sense of promise, yet the shadows of the past loomed ever longer. Would they find a way forward together, or would this moment only deepen their wounds? As her mother took a step closer, Jamila sensed that the journey was far from over, and facing the truth wouldn't be easy. But perhaps there was beauty left to uncover if they dared to step into the light. "Jamila, please," her mother said, pleading now as the silence stretched painfully. "Let me in." Jamila's heart felt like it was caught in a vice. She wanted to scream, to push her mother away for all the anguish of the past, but instead, she stood there, frozen. The wind rustled the leaves around them, creating a soft backdrop to the chaos inside her. "Why should I believe you?" Amir's voice cut through the silence, sharp and protective. "You left us when we needed you most." Their mother flinched at the accusation, and Jamila could see the shame wash over her features. "I know. I can't change what I did, but I can try to make things right now. After all these years." Jamila said, her voice trembling. "You think showing up now is enough?" Jacob shifted at her side, his presence a comforting anchor. "What about Dad?" he asked, his brow furrowed. "He doesn't even know you're here." At the mention of her father, Jamila felt an ache deep within her chest. The thought of him battling illness, the memories of his laughter dulled by absence, it clawed at her. "I'm here because I need to be." "For him too," their mother replied, desperation creeping into her tone. "I know I can't erase the pain I've caused, but I want to help him, to be part of your lives again if you'll let me." Jamila looked up at Jacob, who squeezed her hand lightly. The connection sparked reassurance, but her thoughts twisted like a coil. Would it all be worth it? "Mom, the years you had, they shaped us," Amir said softly now. "You can't just step back in and expect everything to be the same." The sky darkened as the sun dipped low, painting the world in shades of melancholy. Jamila felt a torrent of emotions, longing, doubt, hope. She could almost hear her father's voice, full of warmth, saying their mother would always come back someday. But could she really believe that? "Amir is right," Jamila finally said, her voice steadier now. "We can't just welcome you back without knowing you'll stay." "I want to be here," her mother insisted. "I need to make things right. I've lost so much time." A crack formed in Jamila's heart, just enough for a sliver of light to seep through. Did her mother really mean it? Did she truly want to heal? "What if we started small?" Jacob suggested, his voice gentle. "Maybe just see how it goes. Start small." Amir echoed, disbelief etched on his face. Yeah, Jacob nodded, his gaze steady on Jamila. Like getting to know each other again. No expectations. Just see if we can find some common ground. Jamila's pulse danced with the idea, yet fear clung like a dark cloud. The past was heavy, but the thought of forging a new path stirred something within her, a hint of possibility. What do you think, Jamila? Jacob said, his eyes softening as he met her gaze. She took a deep breath, glancing back at her mother, whose hopeful expression bore the weight of sincere remorse. Could she truly take that step? Could they begin to weave the frayed edges of their broken family back together? Okay, Jamila said finally, her voice steady. Let's start small, but don't think for a second it'll be easy. As her mother nodded, tears glistening in her eyes, Jamila felt a mixture of liberation and fear bubble in her chest. Let's take a walk, Jamie suggested, feeling adrenaline rush through her. I could use some air where we can talk, just the three of us. The night stretched before them, undiscovered and full of possibility. Each step felt monumental, a step toward healing or perhaps a step toward an unpredictable destiny. But just as she turned to lead the way, a voice broke through the darkness. Wait, her heart sank. Who is that? Amir asked sharply, eyes narrowing. Jamila's stomach coiled tight as she scanned the dim street. In the growing shadows, a figure emerged. It was someone familiar, someone she never thought she'd see again. Joshua? She whispered. Why are you here? Jamila demanded, tension rising as the weight of their past loomed large between them. What could he possibly want? Joshua took a hesitant step forward, his expression a mix of concern and longing. Jamila, I just heard what was going on, I couldn't stay away. The air shifted, tension hanging thickly around them. Jamila's heart raced, the resolve she had only just found now swaying precariously on the edge of a familiar, painful memory. Why would you come here, now? After all this time? She asked, her voice sharper than intended, echoing her fear and frustration. Joshua had left her when she needed support the most, and now he stood before her like a specter of her past. Because I care, he replied, his voice earnest. I know I messed up, but hearing about everything made me realize how much of a coward I've been. I wanted to see if you're okay. Jamila felt Amir's protective stance tighten beside her. You think showing up here makes everything all right? You think we need you now? He shot back, and she couldn't help but feel grateful for her brother's loyalty. I know it doesn't fix anything, Joshua said, dropping his gaze, and that small crack in his demeanor stirred something in Jamila, though it gnawed at the wound still festering in her heart. But I want to make amends. Can we at least talk? Talk? Jamila echoed incredulously. You think talking will undo all the hurt? Maybe, maybe not, he admitted, his voice trembling. But I want to try. She looked at him, searching for any glimmer of sincerity. His eyes didn't shy away, the vulnerability there was real. She could almost remember the connection they once shared, the laughter and dreams about a future that felt so distant now. Joshua, it's complicated, she began, feeling the weight of her decision inching closer again. I need to focus on my family. I don't know if I can handle any more chaos. Please, he implored, stepping forward hesitantly, only a heartbeat away from crossing the line of her guarded heart. Let me be a part of this, too. If Jacob can come back, so can I. The mention of Jacob made her gut twist. She looked over at him, he was watching, his presence grounding yet encouraging. She sighed, grappling with swirling emotions. The night felt suffocating, and the options stood before her as tempting possibilities tinged with the poison of past pain. Jamila? Jacob's voice was gentle. You don't have to accept him back into your life if it's too much. It's okay to put boundaries up. Amir nodded. Yeah, this should be about you. You fought hard for those boundaries. Don't let anyone tread on them. Taking a deep breath, Jamila closed her eyes for a second, then opened them to meet Joshua's gaze. "I'm not sure what you want from me," she confessed, honesty breaking through the cloud of uncertainties. "I barely know how to deal with the mess we have now." "I want to help," he said simply, the sincerity resonating. "I've spent too long hiding, and I want to be part of the healing, if you'll let me." Her heart raced as an idea thrummed in the back of her mind. What if opening herself to Joshua didn't mean dismantling everything she was trying to build but could be another thread woven into the tapestry of healing? "This will take time," she resolved, her voice steadying. "If we're going to have this conversation, it has to be honest, mistakes included. I can't do this alone." A flicker of hope sparked in Joshua's eyes. "I can do that. I want to be here, to be part of your life again, if you'll let me." Jamila took a deep breath and slowly nodded. "Okay, but we'll take it one step at a time. I still need to learn if you can be trusted again, and I want to make sure my family is safe." "And I will prove to you that I can be trusted," he promised, sincerity etched on his face. As the weight of unspoken truths began to seep through the cracks of their shared history, Jamila glanced at Jacob, whose expression softened with understanding. Perhaps, amid the tangled mess of relationships, there was still room for growth. "Let us talk then," she said, her spirit beginning to lift even amid the uncertainty. "Let us figure this out together." As the evening lingered, the darkness around them felt less like a shroud and more like a space filled with potential, the beginnings of healing stitched between the losses and reconnections they all faced. They turned together toward the path that led to the future, a path they would build step by step into the lingering light of hope. This is family, with all its brokenness. And despite everything, they would find a way to forge something beautiful, no matter how complicated the journey. Now, I want you to join this journey of healing. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you never miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to support the algorithm and help others discover this tale of hope. Comment below your thoughts on this transformation. Let us share our feelings together. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see what it means to find strength in family. You need to support this channel, it's the lifeline for stories that inspire. Don't wait not even one more second.